Auto insurance can all seem the same until it comes time to use it. So don't get stuck paying more for less coverage. Switch to USAA Auto Insurance and you could start saving money in no time. Get a quote today. Restrictions apply.
USAA.
Earning your degree online doesn't mean you have to go about it alone. At Capella University, we're here to support you when you're ready. From enrollment counselors who get to know you and your goals, to academic coaches who can help you form a plan to stay on track. We care about your success and are dedicated to helping you pursue your goals. Going back to school is a big step, but having support at every step of your academic journey can make a big difference. Imagine your future differently at capella.edu.
Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to or back to the show. Thank you so much for clicking on today's episode. My name is Lily. I'm your host. And today we're going to talk all about advice that I would give my younger self. This is actually going to be a two-part episode because I've got some good points, give or take. Good is a relative term. So we're going to dive into all of that today and next week as well. So I'll post this episode. I think I have like 6 bullet points in this first episode and then like 5 or 6 for the next episode. So over the next 2 weeks, we're just going to chat about advice that I'd give my younger self. We're going to talk about roommates, positive affirmations and what they really mean. We're going to talk about unanswered prayers. We're going to talk about friend groups, harboring feelings, and being the smartest person in the room, and tons of other fun little topics. It'll kind of be like mini episodes inside of 2 big episodes, if that kind of makes sense. So hopefully you guys like this format, just kind of like trying something new today, trying to switch it up, do something exciting and fun and different than usual. So let me know how you guys like these episodes. I kind of created these points based around or thinking back to the person that I was like fresh out of high school / like early college. So the version of me like 5 to 7 years ago, which is super weird. I guess, how old was I 7 years ago? 23, 22, 21, 20, 19. Yeah, like 5 to 7 years ago. That's really weird. I'm 24 now, but sometimes I look at my life and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm not in my early 20s anymore. I'm in my mid 20s. And that's kind of scary to me. And I don't really know how I feel about that. Like I'm closer to 25 and that's kind of scary. Like 25 just feels weird. So if you're 25, let me know how you got through it because I'm kind of a little bit concerned. But anyway, got a couple months before that happens. So we'll just kind of take life as it comes, I guess. This morning I was actually journaling and I had a thought of like, how can I slow down time? Because I'm in a I feel like I'm in a transitional season where like some people in my life, where a lot of new people are coming into my life and a lot of people who have been in my life are leaving. And that's just kind of like how it goes. It's not like we're done being friends, but it's just kind of their next chapter is starting and they have to, go do that. And that whole concept in and of itself is strange. And we'll kind of talk about that when we think of friend groups and stuff in the part 2 of this episode. But I was writing and I literally wrote down, how do I slow down time? Because it's already August. The summer has flown by. And for some reason, I just can't figure out why life is going so fast. And I wrote down a couple things that I think could be helpful when it comes to slowing down time. And obviously I don't have it all figured out. There's no perfect formula and time is going to continue to go as it does. But I wrote down 2 things, super basic and super cliche, but the first thing was take in the moment. So literally just like, I'm the type of person that in the moment I stop and I look around and I'm like, I'm going to miss this moment. Like this is a good moment. And I already miss it while it's happening. And that's kind of sad. But then the second thing I wrote down was take a picture. So take in the moment and then take a picture. And obviously those 2 things you're not always going to think to do both of those things or either of those things in the moment, especially if you're having a really good time. But I don't know, hopefully that's helpful for someone. That was kind of helpful for me this morning when I was writing down how to slow down time. And I figured that's kind of a decent formula. It's not perfect, but it's something. So hopefully that's helpful. That was a bit of a tangent, but that's okay. If you like this episode and if you want advice on a certain situation, there is a Google form linked in the show notes, and it just says submit to the advice column. And all you have to do is click the link. It'll take you to the form and you can fill it out. It just asks for your name, or you can write in like whatever you want me to call you. It can be a nickname, your real name, a fake name, whatever you want. And then just describe your situation in detail. And then there's a box where you can add anything extra if there's something else that you want to tell me. And then you just hit submit. So if you have a situation in your life that you want advice on, please go fill out that form, and I would be more than happy to try to give you some good advice and answer it here on the mic.
This is Kristen Bell.
And Adam Brody.
And we're dating.
In our new show, Nobody Wants This.
Right. We're not really dating.
No, in real life, we're married.
Right. Married to other people, not each other.
Oh, this is complicated.
Right. It's just like our love lives in Nobody Wants This, a show about what happens when a bold and sometimes provocative podcast host finds her unlikely match in a sweet traditional rabbi.
Nobody Wants This launches September 26th, only on Netflix.
eBay Motors is here for the ride. With over 122 million parts, you can make sure your number one ride or die stays running smoothly. Brake kits, LED headlights, bumpers, whatever your baby needs, eBay Motors has it. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply.
This episode is brought to you by PNC Bank, who believes some things in life should be boring, like banking, because boring is steady, pragmatic, responsible. You don't want your bank to be cool or sexy. Sexy is for red carpets, not banks. That's why PNC Bank strives to be boring with your money, so you can be happily fulfilled with your life. PNC Bank, brilliantly boring since 1865. Brilliantly boring since 1865 is a service mark of the PNC Financial Services Group, Inc., PNC Bank, National Association, member FDIC.
So let's go ahead and dive into part 1 of this little mini series. Advice I give my younger self, part 1, roommates, affirmations, and unanswered prayers. And I'll probably plug in a couple other little bullet points in here as well. My first piece of advice is that not all advice is good advice. I think that it's super important to kick things off with this bullet point because not all advice is good advice. I've had plenty of situations where I've trusted someone, they're a good friend, they're trying to lead me down the right path, but ultimately everyone's advice is a little bit biased, and everyone's advice is kind of catered towards you, yes, but also based on their own experiences. And so I feel like most of the time people's advice has good intentions behind it, but just because they're a friend and you trust them, it doesn't mean that they're necessarily qualified to give you feedback and input on that certain situation. And some of my most wise friends, the friends that I go to for everything, the friends that I have no problem just like spilling out all my thoughts and feelings to, because I know that they're going to listen. I know that they're going to most of the time give me good feedback. Some of those friends have given me the most horrible pieces of advice. And I love you guys if you're listening to this, but some of them have given me the most horrible advice. And that's okay. And I would definitely say keep asking, keep seeking advice, keep seeking different thoughts and perspectives on your situations. But ultimately, you have to use your own best judgment in deciding if you should act on that piece of advice. So throughout the next 2 episodes, if I say something that you're like, I'm going to do it differently, that's totally cool. That's totally cool. This is obviously coming from my perspective, my thoughts, my experiences, and they're not always going to match yours. So use your own best judgment. I think you are the most qualified person to figure out what you need to do in your situation. And advice is great, don't get me wrong, and that's what this whole series is for, is giving you advice. But you know you best. You know your circumstances best. You know your situation the best. And it kind of gets to a point where like you have to trust your own intuition and just kind of go with your gut on certain things, you know? Okay, that's all I'm going to say about that. My first real piece of advice for you guys, and this one I believe wholeheartedly, there will probably be a whole debate about it, but that's okay because it's kind of a hot topic, or I guess a debatable topic for sure. Positive affirmations only work for so long. Yes, you are retraining your brain. That's kind of the science behind it. I guess I'll back up. If you are not familiar with positive affirmations, it's basically a practice like a mindfulness or a manifestation practice where you sit in front of the mirror or sit just by yourself somewhere. Maybe you're meditating and you sit there and you tell yourself, I am enough. I am beautiful. I am worthy. I am whatever. Or maybe it's even, one step further and we can walk down like the manifestation route and it's like, I am rich. I am a boss babe. I am insert whatever here. I have a big house on the water. I drive a Lamborghini, like whatever it is, like whatever you kind of hope will happen in the future, you kind of put yourself into that same mindset right now to hopefully eventually get you to that thing down the road. So that kind of in a nutshell is what an affirmation is. I guess I got to backtrack a little bit because I got to set the scene for you guys. I used to do affirmations all the time in my mirror, like when I was getting ready for work. Like I really, really, really struggled with body image. I was really not confident. I had a lot of insecurities, and obviously I still have insecurities. I still have days where I struggle, but I would sit in front of the mirror like all the time and do these positive affirmations. And there's kind of a science behind it where you're like retraining your brain to think these things about yourself, to think, oh, I'm enough. I am beautiful. I am worthy. I think for sure to some degree you have to fake it till you make it. But I also think that there will always be part of you, if it's something that you struggle with, there will always be part of you that doesn't believe it. If you're sitting in front of the mirror and you're thinking, I'm beautiful, I'm worthy, I'm strong, those things are totally true. But if you don't believe it, if you have to stand in front of the mirror and convince yourself of those things, there will always be part of your brain that doesn't believe those things about yourself. So there's this gap between what you're saying and what you really believe. And the whole thing is like, oh, do it until you believe it. And that's fine. But are you ever really going to get there? If you have to stand in front of the mirror and tell yourself, oh, I'm enough. It's like, okay, but then what makes me enough? Okay, I'm beautiful, but what makes me beautiful? Like there will always be this empty space between what you're telling yourself and what you believe. And Jesus is the only one who can fill that empty space. I tried so many different methods and modalities to fill that empty space. And Jesus is the only thing that can fill that empty space. I got a question the other day. I was doing like a Q&A on Instagram, and it was like, how did you go from like new age? The new age stuff always kind of scared me, but I messed with it a little bit. I really did. Like manifestation, I was intrigued by it. I was like, all right, how are all these people like getting what they want just by like manifesting it? And I think I need to bring in someone who's way smarter than me to talk about this because I don't even really understand it. But like there's a whole realm out there of like witchcrafty things that like that stuff works. And like that's the scary part is like that stuff works. But it really has like an evil undertone to it that is really kind of scary. And so these affirmations kind of fall into that like weird, I don't even know what you call it, like weird area. Because ultimately, like we are not enough. Like humans are flawed. Humans are messed up. And, I like to think that like most people are good. Like, we have good intentions. Like everyone wants to feel confident and loved and beautiful and, chase after their dreams and all this stuff. But it gets to a point where like, you're not enough. You can't do it yourself. You need something else that can help you do it. I switched my affirmations to Bible verses, and I switched the sticky notes on my mirror with, any type of word on and I still have like some quotes up there and stuff too, but I switched my affirmations to Bible verses and it completely changed the game for me. So I wanted to give you 3 that I really like. This first one is Joshua 1:9. Be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened and do not be dismayed. For the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. This one just reminds me that God is with me throughout every moment, no matter what the day holds. Like going into my day, if things go great, God's with me. If things go poorly, God's with me. and no matter what happens, he's going to have my back. Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. That's a pretty popular one. You may have heard that before, Philippians 4:3. And that's one of my favorites because anytime in my day where I'm in a weak moment, I just lift up a little prayer and know that God can truly get me through anything, whether it's a workout, whether it's a hard conversation, whether it is just a tough moment. I can do all things through Christ. And then another favorite of mine is Matthew 6:25 and 27. This one's about anxiety and worry. Therefore, I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, about your body, what you will wear. Is life not more than food? Is your body not more than clothes? If you have struggled or are struggling with any sort of body image, any sort of self-doubt, lack of confidence, anything like that, Matthew 6:25 through 27 is so good. I guess it's like Matthew 6:25, and then there's probably a couple verses under 27 that are good too. But that was probably one of the first verses that I found in my Bible that like really started to change the perspective for me when it came to affirmations. And it was really, really cool reading that. So those are 3 that I recommend for you guys to just put on sticky notes or just memorize those, say them to yourself throughout the day. Next piece of advice. This one might be a bad one. I don't know, guys. You tell me. You will continue to feel unhappy if it's not meant for you. There's a whole school of thought that's like, your dreams aren't always going to make you happy. You have to keep working even though, you're unhappy. And I get that to some degree, but I also think like if you're just not happy where you are and you can change it, you totally should. If you're not happy where you are and you can change it, you totally should. You will continue to feel unhappy if it's not meant for you. I hear stories all the time of people who are like, I was studying this and I thought that I should go into this certain career path and I was doing this and that, but I was so unhappy the whole time. And it's because I never realized that I was actually supposed to be doing this instead. I think that you can work as hard as you possibly can for as long as you possibly can and lie to yourself about being okay with it. I look at my resume, for example, and a lot of it is like marketing, social media, content management, all this stuff. But I was so unhappy anytime that I did it. I felt so much, not resistance isn't the word, but I just felt so much, maybe like pressure, unfulfillment. I can't think of the right word, but it just felt wrong. Like anytime that I was doing anything like social media management wise or like content creation, like it never was like super fun for me. And I know that a job isn't always supposed to be fun, but I just never felt like what I was doing had a purpose. And I look at people now who like work in social media management and they have a great time doing it. And I just think like, how do they have such a good time doing it? Like I was miserable, like trying to chase the likes and chase the followers and chase the verification badge and all this stuff. I'm like, that was so tough on me. And I realize now, like, they're having fun because that's what they're called to do. Of course they're having fun because that's what they're called to do. I wasn't having fun because that's not where I was supposed to be. Next piece of advice, guys, I'm holding the mic. I guess I could go get my mic stand right now, but my arms are so sore. And holding the mic, I was holding it with my right hand for like the past 20 minutes. And I can't, like, I'm doing like arm bends right now because I'm trying to like get some blood flow back into my arm. It's so sore. We did such a little, it wasn't even a crazy workout. It just was a lot for some reason the other day. And I woke up, I couldn't even move. And then I got out of bed and like dragged myself to the gym. That's the other thing. Miscellaneous piece of advice. If you're sore, go to the gym. Because you're just going to get more sore sitting on the couch. Guarantee it. That was unsolicited. All right. Next point. You don't have to be friends with your roommate. You do not have to be friends with your roommate. I'm not talking about my current situation. First and foremost, you guys know I live with my sister. Her name's Lexi. She's awesome. we work pretty well as roommates. But in college, I had a couple different roommate situations, and it was never bad. Like, all those people are great people. But I think if I was acquaintances with my roommate opposed to trying to be best friends with my roommate or roommates, I think my situation would have been a little bit better. And I think the reason is because when you live with someone, it's a really difficult and interesting way to get to know them. And you learn things about them that nobody else knows because it's their living habits. And this is more for like my college freshmen, college sophomores. Like, when you're moving into a dorm or a sorority house or an apartment or whatever it is, and for the most part, like, your living space is shared. I think about how crazy college was, how they put you in a really small room and you're sleeping in a twin bed with someone, or not sleeping in the same bed as someone, but you're sleeping in a twin bed in the same room as someone who you've never met before. Like, a lot of these people, you don't know them. And it's just a random roommate situation, or you find each other on a Facebook page and you're like, this is it. Like, this is going to be my best friend. I kind of had this idea going into college that my roommate and I were going to be besties, and we got along fine, but we weren't besties. And I think that that's probably for the better. I think at first we really tried to be like super good friends, but then very quickly we realized that we had different interests, different hobbies. We got along better with different people. And I think that that situation is a little bit better. Like, no, you don't have to be best friends with your roommate. And I actually encourage you to try to find other friends outside of your roommate, outside of your hall. I'm not saying don't be friends with them, but go out, do what you want to do, and make friends that way. Because if something goes sideways and you're in your room and you just need to get away, you don't want to spend every waking moment with the person that you live with, you got to go out and find other friends.
Hi, I'm Lara, and this is the Lara Bar story. I was on a hike in the Rocky Mountains when I felt inspired to make something that tastes indulgent and delicious using just fruit and nuts. 20 years later, Lara Bar is still at it. From chocolate chip cookie dough to cherry pie, there's a Lara Bar made for you. 100% real, 100% delicious. That's Lara Bar. Find your flavor at larabar.com.
This is an ad from BetterHelp. As kids, we were always learning and growing. But at some point as adults, we tend to lose that sense of curiosity and excitement. Therapy can help you continue that journey because your back-to-school era can come at any age. And BetterHelp makes it easy to get started with affordable online therapy you can do from anywhere. Rediscover possibility with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com to learn more. That's BetterHelp.com.
Max Bankman, I'm the new doctor.
Welcome aboard the Odyssey.
ABC Thursday, September 26th.
This ship is heaven. We're tending to our passengers' dreams.
I'm in.
From 911 executive producer Ryan Murphy comes a splashy new drama on a luxury cruise ship with Joshua Jackson and Don Johnson.
It's your job to keep everyone alive.
She's in VFib. 1, 2, 3. Clear.
I have a pulse.
You're going to be okay.
Dr. Odyssey. Series premieres September 26th on ABC and stream on Hulu.
This episode is brought to you by Opill, the first over-the-counter daily birth control pill available in the U.S. Opill is FDA approved, full prescription strength, and estrogen-free. Plus, there's no prescription needed. Finally, the days of needing a prescription for birth control are over. Opill is available online and at most major retailers. Take control of your health and reproductive journey with Opill. Birth control in your control. Use code BIRTHCONTROL for 25% off your first month of Opill at Opill.com.
I think too, if you are friends with your roommate, that's totally fine. But understand that sometimes you're going to need to step back from being a friend and step into being a roommate. And even Lexi and I have to have conversations. Sometimes it's like, hey, I'm your sister, but we're going to pause for a second and we're going to be roommates. It's going to be transactional for a little bit. And we're going to sort this out. We're going to sort out the living situation or whatever it is, whatever's going on in the house. We're going to sort it out. And then we're going to go back to being friends. And you have to kind of be able to like flip that switch and be like, hey, I don't like when X, Y, and Z happens. And you don't like when A, B, and C happens. So let's fix it. and then we'll move on, and then we'll go back to being friends. It has to be transactional sometimes, and you have to be okay with that. Next bullet point is kind of a big one. Sometimes prayers go unanswered. This is one that I just question this all the time. Maybe not question is the right word, because I'm very confident in my faith and in my relationship with God, but sometimes prayers go unanswered and I can't figure out why. And I've tried to like really dive into the word and figure it out, and ultimately the only thing that I came up with is that prayers are answered in his timing, and prayers are answered if it's in his will for our lives. And you just have to be okay with that. And you have to be okay with, if this prayer doesn't get answered, will I still have faith? Will I still be able to just trust that he's got a plan? Like, why does God heal some people that are sick and not other people who are sick? I don't know. Except for the fact that that just wasn't part of the plan. And I kind of struggle with that, because to some degree I hate that answer. I really hate that answer, but it's also a testament to God knows what he's doing. God has a plan, and you have to be faithful to him, even in the good times when the prayers are answered, and even in the bad times when the prayers aren't answered. This week at Run Club, Liz, one of my good friends, she wrote the devotional, and she wrote it on patience. She put a really good verse on this devo. It's Hebrews 10:36. For you have need of endurance, so that when you have done the will of God, you may receive what is promised. And then she put a good little like recap on there, and she was like, patience activates and keeps our faith moving until we receive clarity from God. Patience is waiting on the Lord to do his will and not your will. That's such a good addition to this little piece of advice here, because sometimes like you're going to sit around and you're going to wait and wait and wait and be patient on the Lord, and he's just not going to give you that thing that you thought that you wanted, but he's going to come and give you something better, or he's going to take the circumstances and the situation and make them better his way. And he's busy writing your story, and he knows exactly how it's going to go, and it's going to hurt sometimes, and it's going to be painful, and there's going to be struggles and trials and tribulations, and some things you're not going to like. I think sometimes too, like if you sit around and think too hard about questions like, oh, why do some prayers go unanswered and some are answered? It's not like it's bad to ask those questions, but I think if you think too hard about it, you almost just confuse yourself. And so I wouldn't say don't ask these questions, because they're important questions to ask, but don't like marinate on them for too long. And I feel like this could be bad advice too, but that's just kind of what's helped me, is like, you know, open the Bible, read a verse, and just like, I don't know, maybe it's just accepting it, like accepting that like that's how God works. Don't let it waver your faith. I think that's a super important aspect of this too. Like unanswered prayers can sometimes rock your faith, and that's really hard. Okay, last point for today's episode is kind of a hot topic, but it's that dating isn't what it used to be. I don't even think that that's advice, to be honest, but it's maybe just a fact. Dating isn't what it used to be. Granted, I don't know what dating used to be like in your 20s. Like 10 years ago, what was dating like? I don't know, but you probably didn't have all these apps, and you probably didn't have, there's like an attitude right now, and I really can't put my finger on it. We'll use that to kind of like preface this here piece of advice. Don't let people pressure you into finding a relationship when dating is really tough. The dating pool is different. It's not like what our grandparents experienced. And so like, yeah, of course it's really hard for girls, but I think it's kind of hard for guys too. And so I can understand that to some degree. Like the older we get, I think the more intimidating it gets. And maybe that's just because like the stakes are higher to some degree. Like I feel like the further I get into my 20s, the more I'm like, okay, it's kind of like time to like find someone, settle down, do the whole, like I have friends that are married, I have friends that are having kids. Like I'm nowhere close to any of those places, and that's fine. But I also think too, like I can't just sit around and talk about it. Like I have to go out and meet people. And so that's my next piece of advice is put yourself in situations to meet good people. And I feel like I try really hard to do this, and I've met a ton of great people, probably have some crushes, that's fine. But I also think, I'm embracing my season of singleness or whatever. But that's a big piece of advice that I want to give you guys is put yourself in a good place to meet good people. You're not going to necessarily meet the person that you're going to spend the rest of your life with in the bar. I'm not saying that you won't. I'm saying that the chances are probably slim. Probably very slim. And if you do meet someone, yeah, there's something really special about being friends, but there's something really not special about the friend zone. Okay? If you meet someone and you're kind of interested, I think you should just ask. I think that you should just ask because honestly, like nothing's worse than a missed opportunity. And worst case scenario, if you guys like go on a couple dates and you just kind of realize, hey, we don't really fit well together, you guys can then decide that you're just going to be friends. I used to be totally okay with taking a friendship in any form, no matter if it was like kind of talking, kind of dating, kind of being friends, kind of whatever. Like I'm so not okay with that anymore. I feel like the older I get, the more I'm like, no, like if we're going to be friends, that's fine. There's not going to be any in between. But if I'm into you, like let's explore that, So anyway, let this be a little confidence boost to kind of just like go ahead and ask. In this dating conversation that I had a couple days ago with my friends, the general consensus was if you like someone, just go ahead and ask them if they want to like grab coffee or grab dinner or grab drinks or whatever. And guys really do appreciate it when a girl just asks. There's that new song out. It's like, I think it's like Ella Langley. And she's like, excuse me, you look like you love me. Like she just goes up to a guy in the bar and it's like, hey, you look like you love me. Like granted they do leave the bar and probably go hook up. But like, use your best judgment. And if you are potentially into someone, just go ask. The worst they can do is say no and then you find someone else, All right, guys, that is going to be it for today's episode. I hope that you enjoyed it. Be sure to subscribe and follow the show and be on the lookout for part 2 next week, where we talk about friend groups, harboring feelings, being the smartest person in the room, and so much more. If you guys want to see more from me, you can follow me on Instagram or the podcast Instagram, and both of those will be linked in the show notes. I love you guys so much. Have a great rest of your week, and I will talk to you soon.